Bonjour à tous. Hello everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'm very happy that you are here. Today, I want you to join me to the journey of the Queen Consort of Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette, before and after the French Revolution. Let's go. Allons-y. Marie Antoinette was the last queen of France before the French Revolution. She was born an Archduchess of Austria in Vienna on November 2, 1755, and was the youngest daughter of Empress Maria Theresa and Emperor Francis I. She became Dauphine of France in May 1770 at age 14 upon her marriage to Louis Auguste, heir apparent to the French throne. On May 10, 1774, her husband ascended the throne as Louis XVI and she became Queen Consort. Marie Antoinette was criticized for her extravagance and frivolous circle of court favorites. "Let them eat cake" is the most famous quote attributed to Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France during the French Revolution. It is the traditional translation of the French phrase, "qu'il mange de la brioche." As the story goes, it was a queen's response upon being told that her starving peasant subject had no bread. Because cake is more expensive than bread, the anecdote had been cited as an example of Marie Antoinette's obliviousness to the conditions and daily lives of ordinary people. Although the phrase is conventionally attributed to Marie Antoinette, it is actually traced back to Jean-Jacques Rousseau's Confessions written in 1765, 24 years prior to the French Revolution, and when Marie Antoinette was 9 years old and had never been to France. The monarchy failed to manage rising social and economic inequality adequately. Population growth and interest payments on government debt led to economic depression, unemployment, and high food prices. French common people resented vast increases in the cost of living over a few decades. Significant resentment was felt by the poorer members of the Third Estate, composed of industrial and rural laborers. Then there were poor harvests in 1788 and 1789. A regressive tax system and the ruling elite's hindrance to reforming led to a crisis that Louis XVI was unable to manage. Regressive tax imposed a greater burden on the poor than on the rich. Several interlinked factors led to the French Revolution, including cultural changes associated with the social change, the Enlightenment, and financial and economic difficulties. The bourgeoisie, made up of merchants, manufacturers, professionals, had gained financial power but were excluded from political power. Prior to the revolution, France was a de jure absolute monarchy, but in practice, the power of the monarchy was typically checked by the nobility, the Roman Catholic Church, and judicial parliaments, and there was the threat of insurrection or revolution as well. On July 14, 1789, the Parisian crowd seized the Bastille prison. And in the provinces, the peasants rose against their lords, attacking chateaux and destroying feudal documents. To check the peasants, the National Constituent Assembly decreed the abolition of the feudal regime and introduced the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. For the part of the crown, Louis XVI lacked in power and strength of character. He was unable to give the necessary support to his ministers. His resistance to popular demands was the main reason why the royal family was forced to move from Versailles and settle into the Tuileries Palace in Paris. He lost credibility further when the king and the queen attempted to escape the capital in 1791 and were caught at Varennes and returned to Paris. Thereafter, Louis XVI was dominated by the Queen Marie Antoinette, who encouraged him to resist attempts by the National Assembly to restrict the royal prerogative, instead of supporting the Constitution of 1791, which he had sworn to maintain. Marie Antoinette also tried to save the crown by negotiating secretly with monarchist factions and with her brother, Holy Roman Emperor Leopold II of Austria and Hungary. News of her intrigues further enraged the French and led to the overthrow of the monarchy in 1792. Louis XVI and his family were officially arrested on August 13, 1792, and sent to the Temple, an ancient fortress in Paris that was used as a prison. On September 21, 1792, the National Assembly declared France to be a republic and abolished the monarchy. Charged with treason against the French First Republic, Louis XVI was separated from his family and tried in December. He was found guilty by the convention. On January 15, 1793, he was condemned to death by guillotine by a majority of votes and executed on January 21, 1793. Separated from her children, Marie Antoinette was transferred from the Temple to La Conciergerie on August 1, 1793. She was kept in an isolated cell in the Conciergerie as prisoner number 230. The original cell of Marie Antoinette was destroyed after the restoration of the monarchy and was replaced in 1815 by the Memorial Chapel dedicated to her on the site of her cell. Marie Antoinette was tried by the Revolutionary Tribunal on October 14, 1793. Some historians believe the outcome of the trial had been decided in advance by the Committee of Public Safety. She and her lawyers were given less than 1 day to prepare her defense. Early on October 16, 1973, Marie Antoinette was declared guilty of the 3 main charges against her: depletion of the national treasury, conspiracy against the internal and external security of the state, and high treason because of her intelligence activities in the interest of the enemy. The latter charge alone was enough to condemn her to death. In the hours left to her, she composed a letter to her sister-in-law, Madame Elizabeth, the younger sister of Louis XVI, affirming her conscience, her Catholic faith, and her love and concern for her children. The letter did not reach Elizabeth. The letter was kept by Robespierre and now is stored at the National Archive or l'Archive Nationale in Paris. Her hair was shorn, her hands bound painfully behind her back, and she was put on a rope leash. Unlike her husband, who had been taken to his execution in a carriage, she had to sit in an open cart from the Conciergerie to reach the guillotine erected in the Place de la Révolution, the present-day Place de la Concorde. Marie Antoinette was guillotined at 12:15 p.m. on October 16, 1793. Madame Marie Tussaud, or Madame Tussaud, was employed to make a death mask of her head. Her body was thrown into an unmarked grave in the Madeleine Cemetery where her husband's body was buried. The remains of King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette were exhumed and transferred on January 21, 1815 to the royal tomb of the Basilica of Saint-Denis. The King and Queen's remains are placed in the archaeology crypt. Their tombs are covered with black marble slabs. Basilique Cathédrale de Saint-Denis, of which former name was Basilique Royale de Saint-Denis, was built in 1144. Its necropolis contains the tombs of the kings of France, including nearly every king from the 10th century to Louis XVIII in the 19th century. The queens of France were crowned at Saint-Denis. These funerary statues of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were commissioned by Louis XVIII in 1815 in order to celebrate the return of the Bourbon family to the throne of France. Their remains are in the crypt in Saint-Denis as mentioned earlier. The praying statues of the husband and wife were completed in the late 1830s. The Queen's statue shows the empire-inspired dress, while the statue of the King wears the costume of his coronation. Then, La Chapelle Expiatoire, Expiatory Chapel, was founded and raised by Louis XVIII after the Bourbon Restoration. The chapel monument is located in the 8th arrondissement of Paris, France. The chapel was constructed on the grounds where King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette had been buried after they had been guillotined, and it is therefore dedicated to them. In the monument, you will find white marble sculptures of the King and Queen. Beneath the sculpture of Louis XVI, you will see Louis XVI's last letter and testament engraved dated December 25, 1792, less than a month before he was executed. Beneath the sculpture of Marie Antoinette, her last letter to her sister-in-law, Madame Elizabeth, was engraved. The originals of Louis XVI Testament and Marie Antoinette's last letter to her sister-in-law are all kept in the National Archive, or l'Archive nationale. I was very lucky to go and see these originals during an exposition at the National Archive this year. Marie Antoinette's letters to her lover, the Swedish diplomat Count Axel von Fersen, were on exposition too. Just outside of the garden of La Chapelle Expiatoire, or the Expiatory Chapel in English, there is a restaurant named Louis XVI at Quetley. It serves a good meal and their lunch menu is priced reasonably. I've been there twice and I like their food and service each time. Marie Antoinette might not have been the most intelligent or virtuous or frugal queen. Still, I believe her life should have been spared. She is one of the most important public figures of the French Revolution that had to endure all the revolutionary waves and tragedies. I hope she rests in peace. I hope you enjoyed today's video following Marie Antoinette's footsteps. I hope to have another video uploaded about her life in Austria before her marriage to the Dauphin of France in a few months. Oh, I've got to get going. I'll come back with more useful travel information about Paris next Thursday. I hope to see you again next week. If you have enjoyed it, please do give this video a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. Please subscribe if you want to see more of my weekly videos. Thanks so much for watching.